What is up, Easley reaction fans, ladies and gentlemen? I am back with my second album reaction today, and like always, it's going to be pulled from the list. Did my Ozzy tribute yesterday. I'm going to be listening to his solo records. I'm probably going to do save Bark at the Moon for like an October special video. Look forward to that. I'm very interested in that album. Bark at the Moon is one of my favorite Ozzy songs like ever from Guitar Hero 1. So 130 options we still have, so let's do it. So you're picking a number between 130. 17, my lucky number. What is 17 going to be? Okay. What's this for? This is Killing Joke. That's Tom Petty. Killing Joke. This is their second album, I believe. I have liked 14 songs from them. I really like their style of hard punk rock. Yep, their second album after their debut, which I think is fantastic. So I'm very much looking forward to this. This is a 57-minute album. Not too long songs. There's two 7-minute songs, but very interested to hear what this sounds like. So let's do it. Let's dive right in. This is The Fall of Because from Killing Joke, 1981, released in of June 22. Starting heavy. Yeah, I can see people not liking that, but man, that was repetitive, hypnotic, and loud in your face. Lots of attitude in that one, and yeah, nice intro for a 1980s punk album. So loved it. Next song up is Tension. Nice riff. Oh, I like this one a lot. Heck yes. Yeah, that one's a big grower for me. Nice atmosphere in that, but the melody just didn't really take me anywhere. So yeah, on to the next one though. So sometimes we're gonna get albums like songs like that. Where I mean, that's the beauty of music is it's subjective. So yeah, next song up, Butcher. Yeah, that was my favorite song so far. I love when he does those distorted vocal effects. I mean, for the early '80s, I mean that is like a predecessor to Nine Inch Nails and Deftones and that kind of industrial new metal stuff that was out. Static X, yeah, that's just hypnotic and awesome, man. I love it. Next one up is Follow the Leaders. Forgot to mention how great the bass is in this album as well. The bassist is going off. And the drumming. Guitars as well. Everybody. Okay, that's still a good song, but I'm just not a fan of the repetition of most songs. So, but I could see that being like a huge song in concert, and kind of chanting it. So that was still a really nice song though. So, next one up is Madness, one of the 7 minute ones. And yep, I'm reading some reviews on Rate Your Music right now. So, Madness. Favorite song now on the album. That went hard as a rock, man. That one hard as a freaking boulder. I loved it. I could see a mosh pit happening in that one. Oh yeah, I would go back and see these guys in the '80s. That'd be a heck of a show. I mean, I went and saw the Melvins and they're heavy. I'm thinking how heavy Killing Joke would be, man. Man, like at a frat house with like beer bottles trashed everywhere, and oh man, oh yeah, that was. I'm gonna return to this song a lot. My dad's gonna love that. He remembers his roommates were punks at Nebraska, and he got into punk rock. He was never like never had a mohawk or anything like that, but was big into the 10 Dead Kennedys, and kind of showed me the ropes on punk rock too. So yeah. Next song up is Who Told You How. Well, that's repetitive. I'm gonna be back, and I'm gonna get some water. So I'll have the song keep playing, but I am gonna get some water. Nice. Very nice. So I guess what they mean by dub is they take all the vocals out and it's just instrumental stuff, which is still pretty cool. They added that, but I don't think there's any reason to listen to it. Probably on my own time. So this last song is brilliant, and I'm thinking this might be like a bonus song or something. But yeah, we're gonna end with brilliant. Then I'm gonna give my rating, and gonna find a Killing Joke video for you guys. So let's go. So I guess these last three songs are just instrumentals. So, anyways, it ends with "Exit" for the vocals, and yeah, just a heavy atmospheric punk album that I really really enjoyed. It'd be a great album to probably take a few nightly walks to, or I like to swim to some heavy stuff like this as well. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty high rating. It's not going to be perfect. I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. Actually, 9.6 out of 10. That is my verdict today on that. Unbreakable, couldn't quite get into that one, and then Who Told You How was, I mean, all those were too little too repetitive for me, so that's why it's leaning a little bit. But the other songs were just awesome, just balls to the wall punk rock. So heck yeah, that is Killing Joke, and we're gonna find some reviews on Rate Your Music.
Killing Joke's first album was very impressive, but it was not perfect, due to a few underdeveloped tracks mitigating its impact. Still, it was the heaviest thing ever put to vinyl when it came out, and it remained so for a few months, when it was eclipsed by this absolute monstrosity of an album. What's This For is even heavier, colder and more oppressive than its predecessor, not loosening the pressure from beginning to end, and Butcher is my favorite Killing Joke song ever. Paul Ferguson's industrial tribal drumming is phenomenal, and you can hear Jazz Coleman's psychotic wide-open gaze in his voice. This is unquestionably Killing Joke's most underrated album. Consensus seems to be that this is a step down from the debut, but I disagree. It's a strong, enjoyable album. For a start, it's Paul Ferguson's coming out party as he plays lead drums on most songs, his thunderous tribal style combining with Youth's unusually loud bass to give KJ one of the most dominant bottom ends around. There are plenty of good songs too, from the gloriously nasty, filthy Butcher to the crisp and catchy new wave influenced Follow the Leaders. My favorite is the terrifically fun tension where Youth amuses himself bending those bass notes to irresistibly funky effect. Ferguson slams out an unstoppable beat, and Jazz makes singing about urban ennui seem like a good time. Unspeakable is another highlight. Ferguson's hypnotic drums turning the song into an endless whirlpool while Walker's biting guitar saws satisfyingly away. There is an Achilles heel to the record, and it's that the only thing mad about the dull, plotting madness is the decision to let it run for 7 minutes. Other than that, well, that ends some epically naff cover artwork. You will never unsee those little heads. WTF is a solid sophomore set that keeps alive the spirit of the debut whilst trying some new things.
I disagree. I thought Madness was the best song on the album. So, yeah, I loved it. Okay, last review up.
1981's What's This For consolidated this music's unique elements into a more focused and, as a result, a more alienating album. The Killing Joke formula for the first half of the 1980s was so simple it's a wonder no one did it before. Take a danceable, energetic rhythm and repeat for the duration of the track. Add choppy staccato guitar riffs backed up by prominent bass, and distant vocals that wail and howl, giving the impression that they are coming from the next street over on a restless night. This formula, rarely deviated from, is occasionally complemented by synths, but KJ would never be so lavish as to offer anything like a melody, a lead guitar or keyboard line, or vocals rich with hummable tunes, at least not until album number 5. At its most extreme, punk came across like a parody of contemporary pop music, a vicious mockery of the audio zeitgeist, a mockery of the music people loved each other to, danced to, cried to, and mourned the dead to. Killing Joke approached this philosophy from a slightly more subtle angle, rather than relying on aggression and simplicity alone. The musicianship here is notably precise, in stripping pop music of every passionate element, including aggression, until all that is left is rhythm punctuated by despairing vocals bent on exposing absurdity. We are left with an unsettling distortion of music once familiar, now contorted into something devoid of feeling. The emptiness that remains brings with it a pending sense of dread. All industrial metal bands to follow owe a debt to this album, but many forget the virtue of empty space complementing the rhythm, which can serve to compound the oppressive atmosphere most industrial music is aiming for, with the notable exception of Godflesh of course. But this legacy extends far beyond industrial music alone. See Metallica for instance. Killing Joke, in a subtle back-to-basics approach to rhythm and more rhythm, reminded us of the power of repetition, the beauty of emptiness, the discord between the restless human intellect and the unforgiving urban environment that confronts it. Indeed, it is not just Godflesh, Ministry, and Fear Factory that would cite Killing Joke's influence. Much thrash and death metal outfits name them as an important influence outside of the world of metal.
Heck yeah. So, yeah, we're going to find a video.
I do have dinner tonight. 5:30.
We're going to do Love Like Blood from Killing Joke.
Right now as a homeowner. But a home equity loan from Rocket Mortgage could keep your
more songs.
If you are watching this video, you are...
If you're watching this video, you don't have ad blocker.
Killed Dr. David Kelly and Diana. I'm waiting for a bit of honesty now. Did Tony Blair know about Kelly? Did he know, do you think? Or was it Alistair Campbell? I'm waiting for the truth.
Nice. Yeah, the first time I heard that was Metallica covering it, and I thought it was a Metallica original song until I heard these guys. I was like, whoa. I was blown away. I think it was like 2 summers ago I heard Killing Joke for the first time. I was like, man, this is gnarly stuff. So hope you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna wait until the 1 minute 10 mark. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna try and do like 3 albums a week, I believe. So stay tuned for that. Thank you. Rock on. Peace.